TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop. Come on, take me higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for Wednesday. Breakfast Bankroll with Brady Kannon and Tyler Wyatt. September 25th already. I think me and Brady were talking. It was 4th of July, then Labor Day, and here we are less than a week away, October 1st. Pumpkin spice lattes, Halloween, and then the next thing you know, it's Mariah Carey decking the halls, and oh my gee. But let's not put the cart before the horse. First, a shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. It is WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download that app. It's free. It will be your most, or one of your most used apps from here on out through 2024 and beyond. Viva Tequila Seltzer, CT Bets, that team, that family. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. Head on over to where you purchase your adult beverages. If they don't have Viva, ask why. And of course, our new proud sponsor and partnership, Terry Smith, Atlanta Steak and Seafood. Last night, I was blessed to have a New York strip, a nice piece of lamb, and a nice piece of pork, all because of Terry Smith at Atlanta Steak and Seafood. Head on over to Facebook, follow Terry Smith, follow Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. If you place an order today, you could be grilling by Friday. So, big week with Brady here. It's the President's Cup. We're going to talk some President's Cup. We're going to talk about the NFL, the carnage in the CIRCA contest. Just over 600 people left out of 14,000+. So without further ado, Mr. Brady Kannon.
Mr. Dawson, good morning to you. I got to tell you, you got my juices flowing here with that background music for Atlanta Steak and Seafood, your new sponsor there. Like the kids say, that's a vibe. That's a good tune there. We ought to roll that throughout the show. That'll get us fired up here. It's still early out here on the West Coast, so I need a little of that on a Wednesday morning. Thank you very much.
Well, I got a little creative myself today. I had a piece of the steak left over from last night, so I had a nice fried egg, provolone cheese, and some New York strip on a sesame seed bagel. And so we started the day with the bang. We're diehard golfers. We love golf, and I go back not too long ago, and we're talking the Ryder Cup, we're talking the Europeans, we're talking, and you and I did a show on this. The odds just made zero sense, and the Europeans just absolutely boat raced them. And we know when we play across the pond, it's different over there. The vibe, the chants. We can't duplicate it here. Now an off year for the Ryder Cup. I put my not my order in, but I got my application in for Bethpage for the Ryder Cup. So that's about a 4.5 hour drive. So hopefully we'll be heading up there. But here we are in Canada here, and the President's Cup. Said all the general golfers that don't know much about the President's Cup, Brady.
Well, this is the 15th edition of the President's Cup. It was created way back when, not nearly as long ago as the Ryder Cup, but it was something to fill this space here, in the early fall, late September time of the year, in the off years that the Ryder Cup, they're both biannual competitions. So every other year for the President's Cup, every other year for the Ryder Cup. And the Ryder Cup is the United States against Europe. And then the President's Cup is the United States against everything other than Europe. So, South Africa and Australia and, all the Asian countries and players, South Koreans and, Sun Jae-im and all those guys in Canada, of course. And back in the day, from Fiji, Vijay Singh, so South Americans, everybody, the rest of the world besides Europe. Is what makes up the international side of the President's Cup team. And the United States has been, and it's basically the same exact format as the Ryder Cup. The Ryder Cup, I believe, is 3 days. The President's Cup is actually 4 days. But the same type of thing with the alternate shot, the 2-on-2 teams with alternate shot, and then 2-on-2 with best ball, and then finally the Sunday singles matches in the end. So very, very similar. The United States has absolutely dominated the President's Cup competition. I mentioned that this is going to be the 15th installment. The United States is 12-1-1 in the President's Cup competition, and they've won the last 9 in a row. And it was like that for a long time with the Ryder Cup. Now that has changed. The Europeans have really owned the Ryder Cup, as you mentioned, especially when they're on their own home turf. And last fall at this time, the Ryder Cup was amazing, as you mentioned, in Italy. Ludwig Oberg jumps on the scene, and Victor Hovland and John Rahm was a part of that squad. So yeah, it was really something. And I kept trying to find a way to get on the international side with this President's Cup, Jeff, because the fact that they're holding it in Canada. And Mike Weir, maybe maybe the best Canadian golfer of all time, a Masters champion, I think 1, maybe 2 Genesis Invitationals, the LA Open. But Lefty is the captain for this squad. They're playing at Royal Montreal Golf Club. And he's got 3 Canadians on his team, Mackenzie Hughes, Corey Connors, and Taylor Pendrith, who have all had great seasons. And so I thought, this, and Canadians seem so passionate about their golf. The Canadian Open, there's so much fervor there. But I didn't like the price. You're only getting, plus 240 or something. I thought it should be higher than that. If you look at the United States squad, once again, they're loaded. I mean, it always looks like that on paper, the U.S., even versus the Europeans. But there's a even larger discrepancy, I believe, here. Versus the internationals. Hideki Matsuyama is probably the best player on the international side, and it drops off pretty good after that. So I thought the United States would be a much bigger favorite, and maybe I was going to get a juicy price with the dog. The other thing is, the United States players are very familiar with Canadian golf. Obviously, we're not that far away. They play the Canadian Open every year, or at least have once or twice throughout their careers. So, I don't think it's like necessarily going across the pond when they play in Italy or France, for a European home game for the Ryder Cup. A little bit different here being close to home. So I ended up landing on the United States side. We'll get into the specific bets, but that's the long and the short of it there. Very similar to the Ryder Cup. It's the replacement in every biannual competition. It's against the rest of the world, everything but Europe, and the United States has been dominant for the last 14 years.
I mean, just looking at it on paper, I'd be throwing in the towel here. I mean, we're throwing out Scheffler, Schauffele, Morikawa, Wyndham Clark, Cantlay, Thegala, Keegan Bradley, Burns, Finau, Harmon, Henley, and Homa. As you said, Matsuyama, Im, Adam Scott, Tom Kim, Jason Day, Ben Young Han, Bezadenhouse, Connors, Corey Connors, home turf, Mackenzie Hughes, Siwoo Kim, Minwoo Lee, and Mr. Pendrith. If I said, here's the only maybe saving grace. Okay, and you got to dig deep here, Brady. It was an Olympic year. Okay,
Yeah.
so you take the Schauffles, you take the Schefflers, not just the year that they both had. Of course, Xander, two majors. Scotty won $1 bazillion, wins the gold. It's almost like it's a foregone conclusion. And I'm going to throw this out to you. It's been a few weeks since the Olympics, since the FedEx Cup. Is there any way in holy hell that actually the U.S. could come in a little flat?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Xander and Scotty have accomplished so much this season. How much do they really care about adding a President's Cup championship in a competition in which they have been so dominant? Yeah, maybe they just kind of go through the motions here a little bit, and the international side is able to catch them. I think that's possible for maybe a Xander or a Wyndham Clark or a Tony Finau or something. But Scotty, I think, is a different animal. I think every time Scotty tees it up, he wants to beat your brains out. I think Morikawa is hungry because he's probably been the best player on the planet that hasn't won anything yet this year. And, you know, the juices will start. Maybe it's a good bet to play the international side on day one or something, that they're going to win day one. You can play individual days like that. You can bet on who will score the first point. So maybe it's kind of like taking the underdog in the first half, you know, when they might be able to hang around for a minute and scare some people. But in the end, I think the talent of the United States will be able to overtake the Canadian side. This golf course, Jeff, Tiger Woods, back in 2007, they played the President's Cup here. The United States won. Tiger Woods called it one of the most difficult courses he's ever played in the world. And it's kind of been the theme, whether it's the Ryder Cup with the Europeans or the internationals for the President's Cup. I think they try and take the length and the power out of the United States' hands. They try and narrow these fairways and grow the rough and put an emphasis on driving accuracy rather than driving distance. Which, okay, I understand, and the Europeans have been successful with that in the past. Well, in this case, if you're going to focus on driving accuracy, the top four guys in this field for driving accuracy are all on the United States side. Brian Harman, Russell Henley, Colin Morikawa, and Scotty Scheffler. They are all in the top 20 on the PGA Tour for the most accurate drivers of the golf ball in the world. So I don't know how well that strategy is going to work. I narrowed it down to driving accuracy, strokes gained approach, iron play, and scrambling. And if you look at, you know, the 12 players on the United States side and the 12 players on the international side, the United States really dominates in all three of those statistical categories. If you just look at, you know, we talked about it looks like the United States is loaded on paper. Well, yeah, that translates into the world golf rankings. All 12 players on the United States side are in the top 25 in the world rankings. Only 4 are for the international side. So again, you know, you spell all this out, and it's surprising that the United States is only minus 250. It feels like maybe they should be minus 350 or minus 400 to me.
Yeah, I smell a rat here. Not that I expect them to lose. Not that I don't want to, you know, root against them. Maybe this is one of these. You just set yourself up. You take a swing on the international side pre-flop, and then if they get out early and they're controlled on Thursday and they got a good Friday going, you can come in through the back door and maybe live bet the U.S. at even money or something.
Well, you know our good friend Cam Stewart over at Sports Grid, and he is a Canadian, a famous Canadian, and he's all fired up for this. I hope he gets a chance to go. I believe he's in Toronto, so a little ways away to get over to Montreal. But I saw he made a bet, and I didn't see this market personally, but obviously it exists somewhere out there. He made a bet where he took the, I always want to say Canadian side because it's so heavy Canadian here. They're playing in Canada. You got a Canadian captain, yada, yada. The international side, he took them plus 3.5 points. So
Okay.
he's saying they're going to lose or win outright, obviously. But like a football game, you're getting 3.5. And we'll get into my plays, but I played the U.S. side. And if you don't want to lay the minus 250 or take the plus 250, whatever, you can kind of thread the needle here and take points or margin of victory, that type of thing. You can do stuff like that. There are markets out there, so you don't just necessarily have to bet one side or the other. You can get a little creative and employ a point spread, if you will.
Well, everyone's sitting and waiting. How in holy hell did you get in, and what are your plays?
Well, what I did was I took the United States to win by anywhere from 4 to 6 points. Okay, so I'm basically making the United States a 3.5 point favorite like Cam Stewart did. I'm thinking the favorite's going to win, and I have them winning by 4 to 6 points. It's interesting. At the Westgate Superbook here in Las Vegas, the favorite is the United States to win by 7 or more points. That's the favorite at 2 to 1. To win by 4 to 6 points, I got it plus 325. I've seen it as high as plus 340. Maybe you can find plus 350. I've also seen one very well-respected golf tipster from the UK who I respect give out the United States to win by 1 to 3 points. So we're kind of all over the board there. I landed on 4 to 6 points. There are 30 matches over the course of the 4 days. So if my bet is going to win, that means the United States is going to win 17-13, 17.5 to 12.5, or 18 to 12. So one of those three scenarios is where I see the U.S. landing here. And then I also landed on top point scorer for the United States side and top point scorer for the international side. And I took a couple cracks in each market. My number one pick for the United States was Morikawa, and got him at 7 to 1. I've seen a little lower, plus 650. 7 to 1 was a pretty good number. But like you and I kind of alluded to earlier, maybe Scotty and Xander have accomplished so much. Are they really hungry to go out and dominate here? I think Morikawa still has some fire in the tank to kind of grab one more trophy if possible, because he's that guy that has been so incredibly good ever since the Masters, but nothing really to show for it. So maybe he wants to go out and kind of lead the charge here for the United States side. He's going to get a lot of playing time. That's another thing that's a part of this handicap. It's hard to go out and pick a guy that's going to be top point scorer if you don't figure he's going to play in almost every match. You want a guy that is kind of at the top of the board there that you figure is going to get a lot of playing time from the coach and not be riding the pine. Morikawa, I figure, will be getting a lot of action. And then my honorable mention, if you will, was Sam Burns at 9 to 1, who has been really playing exceptionally well for the last month or so. His last 4 starts, he's had a number of top 10 finishes. So I just like the way, and he's done well in the Canadian Open too. By the way, I talk about driving accuracy being one of the stats here that I like this week. The Canadian Open was played at Royal Montreal Golf Club in 2014. Look at your leaderboard. The winner was Tim Clark of South Africa. Runner-up was Jim Furyk, the United States captain. I think that's a little bonus for the United States there too. Matt Kuchar was in the top 10, Kevin Kistner was in the top 10, and Graham McDowell was in the top 10. If that doesn't scream driving accuracy, I don't know what does. Those guys, there's a picture of those 5 guys in the dictionary when you look up driving accuracy. So I believe me, I think that's a skill set that is going to matter here this week. And as far as the international side, we mentioned Hideki Matsuyama, probably the most decorated player on that team. But I went a little deeper down the board to Siwoo Kim to be the top international point scorer. If you look at the stats that I landed on this week, Siwoo Kim is 13th on tour in driving accuracy. He's 18th on tour in strokes gained approach, iron play, and he's 20th in scrambling. Just nails the stats in those 3 categories that I think will be very important this week. And oh yeah, I think he will get some playing time. This is the 3rd time he's been in the President's Cup. And we talk about how dominant the United States has been. Siwoo has a positive record overall in his matches in the President's Cup. He's 4-3 overall in President's Cup play. So I think Siwoo's going to get some playing time, and I think he has a real good shot to be that number one point scorer because of his skill set for the international side. And then I also took a long bomb, 14-1 on Taylor Pendrith to be the top scorer for the international side. He has been really playing well the entire season, really. Got his first PGA Tour victory earlier this year, but you just look at his last 5 starts, he's been great as well. So I think he comes in hot. And, we're talking about Corey Connors and Mike Weir and Mackenzie Hughes. I think the local hero could be Taylor Pendrith this week. So those are all my plays. The United States by 4 to 6 points. Morikawa and Burns to be the top United States scorer, and Pendrith and Siwoo to be the top international scorer.
So this is quote unquote the Custard's last stand of the 2024 season. Of course, we have other events going throughout till Thanksgiving, but again, 4 majors, FedEx Cup, Olympics, and then President's Cup. We'll finish out around Thanksgiving, take that little golf break, and then we'll be starting right back up in 2025.
That's exactly right. Yeah. We actually, the FedEx Cup Fall, okay, there's 8 events in the FedEx Cup Fall series where guys are trying to get into that top 125 on the points list to secure their tour card for 2025. We started in Napa, where we saw Patton Kizzire win a couple weeks ago. And then we go back to the normal PGA Tour schedule. We've got 4 events in the month of October. We go to Jackson Country Club in Mississippi for the Sanderson Farms Championship next week. An event every week in October, and then, like you say, an event for the first 3 weeks of November, and then from Thanksgiving, there is Tiger's event in the Bahamas, the Hero World Challenge, I believe it's called, in early December, which we nailed Scotty Scheffler at last year, and we'll probably cover that one as well. But then basically the entire month of December off, and then we tee it up at beautiful Kapalua, the plantation course in Maui, to kick off 2025.
I got about 5-7 minutes left here, Brady. I've got to talk some NFL. You're doing an amazing podcast on Fridays, which we'll get to, talking about the contest, talking about the CIRCA, talking about the Westgate. And listen, it's almost spin, rinse, repeat what has happened in the NFL the first 3 weeks. We've talked about carnage, more carnage, and even more carnage. I mean, the CIRCA is almost gone viral with this Survivor contest.
Yeah.
Over 14,000 entrants, and we're down to 600 plus. Talk about what transpired, obviously, last week with the 3rd straight week, obviously, the number 1 seed, Cincinnati. Cincinnati alone, by the way. Week 1.
Yeah,
Week
they're accountable for almost 3,000 entries going by the wayside. Week 1 and week 3.
Week 1, there was almost 5,000 on the Patriots.
Oh, you're
versus
right. You're
Cincinnati.
right. My bad. Yeah, so it's almost 6,000. Jeez. Wow.
So,
Cincinnati Bengals, everybody's biggest nightmare in 2024, right? Yeah. I kind of mapped it out, Jeff. Week 1 was the Bengals. They were the big slayer of everybody, including our team. We had one. We started out with 3 entries. We had 1 on the Bengals. We survived with 2. The good picks in week 1, and CIRCA Survivor is a little different because you've got to deal with Thanksgiving and Christmas. Thanksgiving Day and Good Friday or Black Friday, whatever they call it. There's 4 games there. That's a separate week. And then Christmas, you've got 3 games. That's a separate week. So you kind of need to save those teams. Week 1, the Bengals were the big destroyer. The Bills, the Buccaneers, the Saints, and the Seahawks were good picks in week 1. In week 2, you had the Cowboys go down as a big favorite, the Lions, the 49ers, the Ravens, and the Eagles. 5 teams go down as, 5, 6, 7-point favorites. The good picks that week were road favorites in the Chargers and the Jets. And how often do you really want to land on a road favorite in Survivor? And then the Texans were a good pick, winning on Monday night over the Bears, or Sunday night. I can't recall which it was. Sunday night. But the Texans are a home team on Christmas Day, so a lot of people were strategizing, saving them for Christmas. So, I mean, the Chargers and the Jets were maybe the two best picks, road favorites in week 2. And then week 3, all hell breaks loose again. The Browns lose at home. The Bengals again, the Buccaneers, the Raiders, and the 49ers, again, all big favorites. The best picks in week 3, I think the best pick was the Jets on Thursday night. The Steelers, the Seahawks, and the Bills, all three of which you may have already used before. So, I mean, and you look at some of these teams, we're talking the Seahawks and the Jets. I mean, we're not talking the 49ers and the Chiefs and, you know, the Eagles and the big high-profile names that are big favorites. You got to really dig in deep in the weeds to find the best picks through the first 3 weeks and be lucky enough to be one of the 642 entries that is still alive. Yeah, but you're right. We were talking about this on Sports Grid last night with our buddy Dave Sharapan. Is this good for Derek Stevens and CIRCA, or is it a nightmare? And I think it's a little bit of both, but I think in the end it's going to be okay. We know what a master marketer he is. He's going to figure out a way to spin this as a positive. And like you said, the news, it's gone viral. What's going on here? We're talking about it on a national, if not global level, and that can't be a bad thing at all.
And there was hints after week 1 and week 2. It's been quiet this week, but there was rumblings that they were talking about maybe next year starting a mid-season event there. For me, I understand the thought process, but this is just my 2 cents. I think it takes a little away from what this really is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I don't like a reboot. I don't like a participation trophy. No, let's play CIRCA Survivor, and you get in, and you try and win, and if you're out, you're out. That's it. See you later. No, and hey, I mean, that's the way the ball bounces. You know, we could also have the flip side where rolling into week 12, there's still 10,000 entries left. You know, I mean, that's bound to happen one of these years too. So you never know. That's why they play the games.
Week 4, the assumption is, just off the top of my head, if they haven't used the Niners, I would assume most people would land on the Niners this week against the Patriots.
Yeah, I have to look at my schedule. Week 4, you know, I did not have the Niners. I was saving them for a later round. The way now we're one of the 13,000 plus that's been knocked out. But according to the way I had it mapped out, I had the Jets, and then I had the Dolphins on 2 entries. Now, the Dolphins, obviously, life has changed for Miami in a big way. So, and if you used the Jets last week, you're in trouble. The Niners is a very interesting game. I grew up a 49er fan, and I like to think that I have a pretty good idea of how this team performs week in and week out, year in and year out. And I always make my numbers. Before I see anything, before I look at anything, before I hear anything about what the numbers are, I like to just, wrap a blanket around my head and not look at anything and then make my own lines and then go and look and see how I stack up. I nailed a lot of lines this week, either spot on or within a half a point. But where I see the discrepancy, that's where I want to dig deeper and say, ooh, do I have an edge here? What have you? I was teetering with the Niners between a 6.5 and 7-point favorite. They opened as 10-point favorites with all those injuries. Javon Hargrave is out for the season. I was like, wow, so the Patriots are a team that's on my radar. Now, I think when we bet underdogs, we also want to ask ourselves, can they win outright? I'm not sure if the Patriots can win outright, but 10 points seemed like a lot to me. Brock Purdy, it was a shame that the 49ers did fall last week. I was on the Rams +7, +7.5, what have you, in the local contest, the Superbook and the CIRCA. I was surprised that they won outright, and it's a shame because Brock Purdy, boy, I think if you're still doubting Brock Purdy, he was awesome last week. My goodness, without all his weapons, he nearly won that game by himself. So hats off to him in a losing effort. But 10 points. I mean, over the summer, the Niners were 12-point favorites. I don't think a 2-point adjustment is enough. Now, I know the Patriots aren't very good. I think we saw kind of what they really are last week on Thursday night. But the Niners are really banged up. And the best time to bet against the Super Bowl loser is the first 6 weeks of the season. So right now, the Patriots are one I have circled. Haven't gotten there yet, but I'm looking hard at it.
And a couple extra days rest, obviously, because they played on Thursday night at the Jets. Yep. Their road win this year in Cincinnati, which no one expected there. So I do like where your eyes are there. Expect a bounce-back performance. Can they win outright? Probably not. But again, all those injuries have added up. Trent Williams left the game. I don't know if he's out as well.
I think he's okay because I think he did come back in that game. But Hargrave is gone. You know, you wonder if Kittle and Debo, CMC's not in for sure.
No, so. He's in Germany having some stouts and grunts. And
Oktoberfest for Christian McCaffrey.
Scroll has been going the whole time. Everyone knows on X where to find you, obviously at Las Vegas Golfer, but we always wrap up your segment here. Tell them, A, where to find all your work, your written work, and B, of course, your schedule on the Sports Grid.
Yeah, maybe a more detailed explanation of the President's Cup and my plays at golf.com. Just tweeted out that article. It's up there now. Later tonight, I'll be on Sports Grid, 7:30 Eastern and 10 p.m. Eastern. And then I'll have an article out a little later today for the PGA Tour regarding the President's Cup as well, where we talk to a lot of bookmakers and get their perspective, where the action is coming in here for the President's Cup. We'll do a report on that. And footballcontestshow.com. Yeah, you know, it's going great. Our entries, we're all above 500. We're doing pretty well, except for CIRCA Survivor, like another 13,000+. We're already out of that piece, but doing pretty well in the CIRCA Sports Million and the Westgate Super Contest. And those episodes come out on Friday evening. All the information there at footballcontestshow.com.
Brady, we can't thank you enough. Have a blessed day. Enjoy the President's Cup, and hopefully maybe this weekend we'll catch up on the Sports Grid.
Sounds great, Jeff. Thank you as always.
Thank you. The one and only Mr. Brady Kannon. Go follow him at Las Vegas Golfer. Go catch him on the Sports Grid this evening. Take a quick commercial break, Ryan, and when we come back, the one and only Mr. Tyler Wyatt.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, take me higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Next gentleman up in his weekly spot, numbers second to none, and a big week in college football. When isn't it a big week in college football? I can't wait to see where his eyes are, of course, at 7:30 in Tuscaloosa as the Georgia Bulldogs head into Alabama. I'm seeing Georgia 1.5, 2-point favorites. Our good friend at the Circa, Jeffrey Benson, opened that at a pick. They were the first in the market last week. Opened it at a pick, went all the way to 3. Georgia -3. I sent him a quick DM. I'm like, Jeffrey, the risk room must really like Alabama, huh? He goes, we thought that was the right number, Jeff. I says, well, if it tips to 3.5, which it never did, I says, you know where all our money will be going. And he said, laugh, 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 ha, ha, ha. So anyways, let's bring him in, Mr. Tyler Wyatt. What's up, T?
What's going on, JD?
You know,
Getting hounded by the rain here. We got that hurricane coming up all the southeast. It's going to be 4 or 5 inches of rain over the next 2 days here in Knoxville. So the internet stays connected here. But yeah, plenty of time for us to stay indoors and get prepared for a pretty decent slate of college football this weekend.
Well, that sounds like good poker weather, Tyler.
There will be a lot of poker. Unfortunately, there'll be a lot of online poker because we can't get on the same page as a country. We can't just legalize online poker. We'll save that for another show. Yeah, there will be plenty of time for poker, plenty of time for college football study over the next couple of days.
Tyler, I've been very high on one of these two teams that I'm going to talk about, and the other team made a statement. Now, you and I have talked a lot about these two teams I'm going to bring back, but one of them has the it factor. It's back, and that's the Miami Hurricanes. And again, the only thing that's going to get in Miami's way is a close game and Coach Cristobal. They got the it factor. The U is back. They got a quarterback that can lead them. Am I crazy to say they got a chance not just to make the final 12, because they will? Am I crazy to say they have both sides where they could win it all, Tyler?
Yeah, unfortunately, they're not going to have many advantages in the coaching department. They're going to, Mario Cristobal, adjustments and ability to kind of make changes on the fly. I have zero trust in him. But right now, their team is playing so good on both sides of the ball that Mario Cristobal can't get in the way of his own team. They were 21st in my power rating last week after what was a dominant performance over a team that I thought in South Florida, I thought was going to give them a run. That was just a complete blowout, dominant performance. Defensively, it was a great performance. Offense. The U is back. They moved from 21st in our power ratings last week. We have them flirting with the top 10. We have them at number 12 this week. So big risers in our power rating. The U right now, they're rolling. Mario Cristobal will try to figure out a way to screw that up, but I'm not sure he can. Right now, his team's playing, as good a football as not only anyone in the conference, but anyone in the country. Not an easy out right now for anyone. Third of the way through the regular season. Miami right now is the real deal.
Second team, we were very, very high. I reached out to you in July about last weekend's game, and of course I'm talking about Tennessee Vols. And it used to be roll the ball out, first one to 50 wins. Not only is their offense great, not only is their quarterback great with Nico, man, they got a defense. And a great game in Norman. Hats off. Oklahoma played a good game, but I'm just telling you, Tennessee's at that another level now. And I know we've talked all year about Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss. At some point, you're going to have to start creeping Tennessee into that conversation.
Yeah, it's a Tennessee team right now playing as good defensively as they are offensively. And right now, they're one of the best offensive teams in all of college football. You have a quarterback in Nico who, I thought it was going to be a test. Oklahoma was the first true test. NC State, that neutral game, there was a lot of buildup there about we'll see what kind of, makeup this kid has. He passed all of those tests with flying colors. He struggled early, which I think that showed a lot in what kind of poise that he has, that he doesn't get rattled easy. A couple of fumbles there. He's a little loose with the football. I think that will help him to get into the tougher part of the schedule for Tennessee. They're in the catbird seat this week. They're going to be number 4 in the country because I do think that they leapfrog. Maybe you could make a case that they don't leapfrog Georgia if Alabama wins a close one, but I do think the loser of that one probably falls to 5, and that Tennessee will be in the 4 seed in at least one of the polls. They have a test in Arkansas, it's a team that's proven to be able to put up points and move the ball. That'll be I don't want to say that'll be a tough test, but it's a game that they can't overlook. And then obviously, a quote rivalry game with Florida, that'll be a big one. They're going to be huge favorites. I have them almost 17-point favorites at home against Florida right now in my early number. They're going to be north of 2 touchdowns on the road, I think. In our numbers, they're 13.4, believe, at Arkansas next week. Maybe, depends on what Arkansas does this week. If there's any big injuries, maybe we move that or adjust that. But right now, they're going to be double-digit favorites considerably in the next 2 weeks. So they're going to be favored to win both of these games. And you're talking about a team that will, in all likelihood, be 6-0 when they face off with Alabama. This is an Alabama team with a win against Georgia. This could be, it's a top 3 or top 4 matchup potentially. And the look-ahead number on that game preseason, we talk a lot of pre-flop numbers here. Alabama was in that 2 to 3 neighborhood before the season started. Tennessee, if Tennessee dominates, Arkansas dominates Florida, and you see Georgia maybe take it to Alabama and Tuscaloosa, we can see that flip-flop where you have a Tennessee team that's on the road as a 2-point favorite. We'll pump the brakes a little bit there. But this is, a Tennessee team right now collectively playing as good a football on both sides as anyone else in all of college football. They have a number of stars. James Pierce on that defensive line will be a top 5 draft pick, in my opinion. They have a number of offensive guys that I think are NFL caliber players. And then you have a quarterback who's just a baby sophomore, 4 weeks into a sophomore season. They're going to have him for another year. I think I live most of the year in Knoxville, so I'm pretty close to the beat here. I'm a Kentucky fan, that. So it does pain me a little bit to talk about, to give all of these, East Tennessee, Rocky Top, all the orange that I see day in and day out, a lot of praise. But I give it when it's due, and it's due to the Tennessee team right now, unfortunately. They're a really, really good football team. And if they can avoid the injury bug over the next, month, this is a team that is absolutely capable of not only making a playoff, but making a deep playoff run.
Yeah, and again, a lot of times it's hard for people if they miss the number, the real number. Now, a lot of people don't want to go into July and August and buy the pre-flop money, the numbers, because they don't want their money held up all the way till mid-January and stuff. And I get that. It's going to be a 12-team playoff this year, so even if you miss the real good number, you can shop around a little too late to say Miami to make the playoff or a Tennessee, but you can add them actually to win the championship to your portfolio, assuming they get in, which most likely we assume they will, assuming that they're going to win their first game, which both of them currently will be favored in their first game. And it sets up potential hedge opportunities in that second game, because you can never not have enough in that portfolio where you can have opportunities to hedge, to double down. If you're just holding that one golden ticket and says, well, on July 28th, I said Ohio State's going to win it all at 4-1. Well, whoop-de-doo when there's 3 other teams at 6, 8, and 10-1 trying to beat them in the Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Florida number on Tennessee and Florida opened 7 in early May. If that number, if my number turns out to be close to true and it's anywhere near 17, you're talking about the potential to have a 10-point middle here. Not that I'm an encourager of giving away position. But in college football, if I have 10 points, I'm going to buy a little bit on the other side just to try to double dip. That number on Oklahoma, we saw that with at 3.5, 4.5 in favor of Oklahoma in the late part of the summer and even in week 1, week 2. And then we saw it flip-flop, completely to the other side where you could have got Oklahoma plus 7.5. You could have had Tennessee at 5+ and Oklahoma at +7. There's a lot of room there for numbers to land. Obviously, Tennessee wins by double digits, so it wouldn't have worked out. But this is, part of, sports betting long-term is approaching it much like you do traditional money market investing or stock market investing, and you buy positions you sell positions, and then you take on, you know, certain liabilities when you are able to win on both sides. There's, arbitrage is a big, there are a lot of people who only arb bet. I like to take on arbs whenever I can middle or double dip. But yeah, I mean, this is action is where you will make your money if you're in this for the long haul, long term. You have to be ahead of the number. Winning obviously is the most important thing, but if a lot of people in the last, it seems like the last year or two, we've heard CLV more than we've ever heard it, over the last 20 years. It's always been a thing. It's just now become more popular to talk about. Um, you need to have, you need to be able to beat the closing number. You do not have to beat it to win every single situation that you're in, but you always want to be ahead of a number. If you can bet a number, because absolutely still lose the game, but I'll take all of that. I'll take all my positions on that side, and we'll just ride it out together. But yeah, um, this is a Tennessee team right now playing as good as anyone. You mentioned Miami; they're one of the teams. If you were to go through the list, outside of Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, Tennessee, and Miami, there's about 15 teams, 20 teams that you could maybe make a case to fill those other 7 spots. I think those names that we touched on, I don't want to say that they're all guarantees, but right now they all look like pretty safe playoff bets. But there's a big gap, I think. Once you get past 7 and 8, there's a whole bunch of teams I think that are all pretty good. And that's the beauty of college football. And, we have to go through the season. The games will decide ultimately where the pieces fall. You're always going to have the team that's in 13th is going to have a case that they should have been inside the top 12. We're going to have that no matter how big the playoff gets. But right now, there are a number of the teams that we touched on, I think, are clear cut above that second tier. But that second tier, there's a lot of football teams. I think the overall health of college football right now, at least at the top 25, top 30, it was all for decades. It seemed there were a handful of teams, 3 or 4 teams that were going to win a championship most years. Every once in a while, you could throw someone else in. I think now that we've expanded, we've gotten to a playoff finally. Those teams that are like 15 to 25, 15 to 30 are way better than the teams that were 15 to 30 in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think the overall health of college football is as good as it's ever been. But yeah, this is right now. It's a 12-team playoff that I think the top half is really SEC heavy, and then you have Ohio State and Oregon and Miami, and then there's going to be a battle to fill out those other 6 or 7 spots as we get deeper into the season.
Got about 8 minutes, give or take. I mean, we can go longer, of course. I could talk to you for hours here, Tyler. A couple breaking news. UNLV gets kicked in the jimmies today. 3-0. They were probably the leader in the clubhouse for that 5th spot that 5th team that was going to get the into the smaller schools is what I'm trying to say. They're 3-0. I was real high on them. A little collusion going on. Let's just say someone came in the back door and offering this kid a lot more money, and he's like saying, "Hey guys, you didn't cover up. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. Therefore, I'm putting the red shirt on," and just really kicking the rebels in the you-know-what. That's number one. Number two, Nebraska is exactly who the hell I thought they were. They haven't won a big game in 2 decades. Got an opportunity to go 4-0 and spit the bit, of course, there. But I really need to get to the game. Georgia at Alabama this week. What's your numbers say? And as of Wednesday at 11:50 Eastern, what's your gut say?
What was the game? Sorry, internet cut out right when you said the 2 teams there.
Alabama hosting Georgia today.
I'm kind of going back to that Michigan and USC where I had Michigan a baby favorite when they were a 5-point dog. That number actually came down towards where we had the number there before the kick. We have Alabama the favorite here. We have Georgia a .7 favorite neutral. It's not in Georgia. We give Alabama just under 2.7 points at home. So our number has Alabama 1.9. So basically Alabama 2, completely the other side of where the market is. So I'm riding with the Tide. It's not Saban anymore. It's DeVore, but this is a Georgia team. Obviously, they haven't been in regular season win streak. We can talk. It's north of 40 games. They've only lost outside of the championship or 14 playoff games or SEC championship games. They've lost a couple of games to Georgia. This is a team that's just not akin to losing. Go back to 2020 before you find their last regular season loss. This is an Alabama team with with Milroe. I was very concerned about Milroe last season. Went against Alabama in the championship game and took one on the chin. He appears to be a completely different quarterback. We knew that the kid was mobile. We knew that he was a weapon with his feet. But what he's done through the air, he's thrown the deep ball with accuracy. He is going through his progressions. It appears, and it's obviously very early into this season, that what DeVore has been able to do his entire career, which is be a quarterback whisperer, appears as though he's done that in the very short run here with Milroe. If that's the case, this Alabama team is almost a complete package. The scary thing is he's still about a year away from putting together his own full class. He had there was a fire sale, I guess, so to speak. We can talk about that now with NIL and all the money. He lost a ton of kids through the portal. He did bring some kids with him from Washington, but he kind of threw a class together there that was respectable. The scary thing is he's going to be able to recruit at an even higher level with, I do think they make a playoff, and I think they're at least right now they're my early season prediction to be in the title game. Whether they win that or not, we'll wait and see. If he gets to a title game, what he'll be able to do recruiting from here on out is going to be scary. But he has this team playing really good football. They got out slow in that UAB game, ran away, and kind of figured some things out. This will be, I think, a really, really good football game. It's hard to go against Kirby Smart, but I'm going to trust my number. That's just what I do. You have to take emotion out of it when you get into doing this. I'm going to back Alabama because my numbers say that they should be about a 2-point favorite.
Last 5 minutes is always up to you. I want to know where you're seeing some leans, some edges this weekend. You've been spot on the first couple weeks here. Where do your numbers have some edges against the books this weekend, Tyler?
Unfortunately, it's one of the first games is that 12 o'clock slate with my team, Kentucky, going to Oxford. Lane Kiffin, one of the best offensive coaches in college football. Jackson Dart playing the position as well as anyone deserving to be in the Heisman conversation. That number right now, 17.5. You can shop and find different numbers. We have Ole Miss. Unfortunately, we have the Ole Miss minus 20.9, so a field goal over where the market is. Second game that we see is Baylor minus 3 at home. We have Baylor 5.4, 2.4 points ahead of market. Big emotional win for BYU against Kansas State there. It was a Kansas State team that we actually have a ticket over on, so it was a tough one for me to watch last weekend as BYU just dismantled Kansas State. It's a Baylor team that I think is really, really good. 2-2, look at the record. You have a lot of 2-team favored over the ranked 4-0 team. Our numbers say that not only they should be, but it should be a little bit higher. And then one that you mentioned, Nebraska at Purdue. Number on this one is 10 at most books, it looks like, just looking at the odds screen. Nebraska right now, that was a tough one. 3-1. They lose one there to Illinois in overtime. Illinois was talking to a good mutual friend of ours, Rob Misch. Illinois was my sleeper for not only the conference, but their win total. I thought that was about a game and a half low. Very happy to see that one. That was one that I actually had penciled in as a loser. So happy to take that one. I think Nebraska will take out some aggression on a Purdue team here that there's a lot of question marks on both sides of the ball. It's a tough road test, I guess you could say. Our number has Nebraska at 13.1, so a field goal under market there. And then the last one, Buffalo and UConn. Buffalo was a team that I gave out there last week. They were playing Northern Illinois. It was it set up, I think, well for us. We're going back there, Buffalo and UConn. UConn 5.5. UConn shouldn't be 5.5 over anymore. Our number on this one is closer to 2.1. So field goal under there. Buffalo goes con, and this wouldn't surprise me at all if they win this one outright. But 5.5 I thought was pretty laughable.
I was thinking of you the whole time with Buffalo. I'm like, wow, they're keeping this close. Wow, they're keeping it. Holy shit, they won outright. And I was like, damn, I hope Tyler sprinkled, as Kelly Stewart would say, a little beer and pizza money on that money line. That was a hell of a call there, Tyler.
Yeah, we liked Buffalo. The model liked Buffalo, so it's always nice to squeeze those.
Well, internet has been tough, obviously. I hope you can hunker down. Be safe out there. Hopefully the internet hangs up there long enough for you to do your thing. And, of course, get through the weekend and cash some tickets like you always do. The scroll has been going the whole time. Go follow Tyler at Tyler Wyatt Bets. Go follow him at Odds Culture. Tyler, we can't thank you enough. We'll grab you same bat channel, same time next week. How's that?
Sounds great, JD. We look forward to it.
All right, thank you. The one and only Tyler Wyatt. Ryan, let's go to a quick commercial and we'll be right back. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Storms coming up the East Coast. Thoughts and prayers to Florida. Thoughts, of course, to Mr. Scotty Webb. I did add in our daily tweet the show times, and I did put in asterisks, weather permitting. Again, the hurricane, I think Helena, is heading soon to be hitting Florida, maybe coming up the East Coast here. So anyone in the track, please be safe. Don't be a hero, guys. Come on. Life's too short to be heroes there. I want to personally thank, of course, Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer and Tyler Wyatt at Tyler Wyatt Bets for coming on every Wednesday at this time to talk golf, to talk NFL. And Tyler, the best in the business when it comes to numbers in college football. And he's not going anywhere for college till college basketball is done in March Madness in April, hopefully, LOL. 5 o'clock, the closing bell. Myself and Riley Magnuson will be back here to get you caught up on tonight's MLB action. A handful of games left. Playoffs getting a little tighter as we speak. And then again, 6:15, weather permitting, Scotty Webb in the batter's box there. Big shout out to Mr. Ryan Shanklin, the man behind the glass. Amazing work as always. Great job. We couldn't have done it without you. To everyone else out there, if you haven't subscribed, head on over to YouTube, East Coast Sports Investors. Subscribe. It's free. Enjoy the afternoon. See you soon.